What up, people? It's Emmanuel for Altenor Media. We're back for the 13 Reasons Why binge watch. We're on episode 5, which was the chalk machine. So let's get right into this episode. We start off Mr. Porter. Now he's getting threats, as he's on the tapes also. He gets a note that says, "Know your place." And his car, the back window was smashed in because now Mr. Porter's taking it a step further. He's really getting involved with the kids' lives. He's really trying to make a difference before his time is up. And apparently that's not cool for somebody who's involved. So we also get to a part where Zach is talking to his mom. And his mom says that every day it's always a different boy that's being mentioned with Hannah. So now we see just how the defense dragging Hannah's name through the mud, just how it affects people's perception of her. Because now the mom is basically trying to say that Hannah is a slut. And this episode is Ryan's episode. So Ryan is up to testify. We now see that Ryan and Hannah had a pretty tight friendship. They connected through poetry. So Ryan testified that Hannah wrote that note about suicide, and he said that no one took it seriously because the note was read in the class. That was a note he published without her permission. It was read in front of the school and no one did anything about that. So Tyler, and look at Tyler now. Tyler is now feeling empowered. Tyler used to walk around slouched over with a hunch, and now he's walking around proud with his new homie. They made those t-shirts that say asshole on it. So we see a major shift in Tyler. Not only does he not want to be bullied, but now he wants to be a tough guy. He wants to flex his muscles now. So there's a change going through Tyler. And we notice that once he sees that no one else is really telling the truth. And he sees that the bullies aren't really going to get their due. So now he's out for blood now. And we find out through Ryan's testimony that Hannah was still texting Justin after the whole thing where he basically embarrassed her, that began her humiliation and her reputation as a slut. She was still hooked on Justin, texting him, communicating with him, and even seeing him, which is, I guess, is mind-boggling and just a shock to everybody. So now we're just learning more and more about Hannah that we didn't even know. We didn't even expect something like this. I guess it just speaks to just how lonely she was, because this dude began really her downward spiral. He really messed her up, and she still hung up on him. She's writing multiple poems about him, and it seems like she's in love with him, which is crazy to us. And Ryan is trying to get her to be cleansed of him, to drop him. But Hannah, she can't do it. So, and when Justin reveals that, when Ryan has to read the notes that Hannah wrote, the defense asked him who were the poems about. And he hesitated to say it was Justin because he wants to protect Hannah's reputation, because once they find out that it was Justin, they're gonna say, and they did, the defense lawyer says that, isn't this the same boy that ruined you? So how are you now writing love poems about him? It makes no sense. So, and we find out why Tony is so scared now too, because Tony is on his second strike. So one more strike and he could get locked up. So that's why he really doesn't want to deal with the Justin situation or really get caught up in the Hannah story, because his freedom is on the line now. So we get a little more insight into what has Tony so shook. And now we're introduced to the second. We see that the second Polaroid was actually taken in the school, and it was taken in a room that Clay is trying to find out just where it is. So now Clay has to be on a mission to find out just where that room is. So it seems like, back to Hannah, because I'm trying to follow the episode as it goes on. Hannah said, it seems like Hannah couldn't let Justin go, even though she knows that he could hurt her again. But she couldn't let him go. And now we move on to, and while all of this is being revealed, Mr. Baker, you can see how just uncomfortable he is. And Mrs. Baker, that's why she didn't want him in there, because she didn't know how he would be able to handle the Hannah that he didn't know. And you could tell he was really uncomfortable with it. And him being a father, he just has a whole different outlook on things than the mom. So Justin eventually meets up with Hannah at a coffee house, and we find out that he avoids her at school, but he texts her all the time, and he tries to see her away from his friends. Again, because he's embarrassed. He's concerned with what Bryce and them are going to think, but Justin is trash himself. So, and Tyler walks in and sees them there because he's supposed to have coffee with Hannah, and he tells Hannah again, you got to cleanse yourself of this dude. And now we see that the Olivia Baker's, the woman friend activist who's with her, she initially doesn't want the dad around. Maybe she wants to secure her place as the right hand to Olivia, so she doesn't want the dad to come in between her and Olivia. So we'll find that out. And now we see really the question comes up, because Justin is an asshole. Why do girls love assholes? And that's really the question that kind of Clay asks. Why was Hannah so hung up on Justin? Why do we love people who aren't good to us? And Hannah basically says, you can't help who you love. You can't help who you want. So it's kind of interesting. Now we're getting to a real human element, because this happens every day in normal life. We always want something that we can't have, or something that we know is not good for us, but we can't let that person go. So that's a real interesting aspect of that played into Hannah's downfall. And we see that baseball team, they a bunch of no-gooders. Because now that they're even on steroids, we got people injecting each other in the butt and all that, and the coach is handing out. The coach knows about it because he's handed out fake pee because they have to get drug tested the next day, so he's handing out fake pee. So that is just a corrupt environment. So anything can go on in there. They have no integrity in there. So let's talk about Hannah's poems a little bit, because I got a chance to read, some of the exact poems. I placed it in, read some of the exact poems. It was interesting how in one of the poems she said work was boring. Work was so boring that she almost wishes that Clay was around, even though she can't stand him talking about his magic set. She said she almost wishes Clay was around. So I guess we can see at that point she just views Clay as a nerd, not really a viable option. He ain't got no swag at that point. So she's not really feeling Clay like that. For her to say, she almost wishes he was here. And so that was interesting. And Clay loved that girl. So we also saw a little bit of maybe this is what she helped Tony with, because in one of her poems or journals, she also mentioned that Tony and Ryan were out, and then some guy was throwing slurs at them, and Tony beat him up really bad, and then Tony stumbled into the movie theater, and I guess she helped him out. Hannah helped him out when he stumbled into the movie theater. So maybe that's how their friendship blossomed, or that's just how she ended up having one up on him, where he owed her, and he had to honor her. That's why he sent out the tapes for her. So that was interesting to see a little bit into what was going on with Tony, why he was so scared about in episode 1. Because I'm guessing if that is pieced together and they find out, more details, he could get into some more trouble. And another thing, when Bryce's girlfriend went to dinner at Bryce's house, she was cooking with Bryce's mom, and then when she lifted her arm up, there were some welts all over her arm, and his mother looked at her, and she just said it was from cheerleading. But you could tell Bryce's mother was a little bit suspicious of Bryce the way she looked at it. So she might know something that's going on, and she might actually be dealing with it with Bryce's father, her husband. And it was interesting, the conversation that Bryce had with his dad. His dad asked Bryce if she's loyal. Now, the way he asked him seems like he means, is she going to keep your secrets? Is she going to keep your dark secrets? Is she going to enable you? Is she going to keep her mouth shut when you do dirt? So we can kind of see where Bryce gets his assholeness from his dad. Also, we see Tyler he joins in with his friends in the way they stared at Ryan at the coffee house. It's a little bit bullyish. I guess Ryan deserves it in some way, but we might see him turning into a bully, Tyler, and his new homies. even though Tyler isn't innocent himself, he just came clean, but he's not innocent himself. But his transformation is noticeable. And we also find out the girl who's been trying to befriend Jessica, who Jessica blew off, she's also a survivor, which is interesting. She was at the meeting that Jessica went to, the survivors meeting. Then we also see that Tyler's neighbor, the old dude that saw them shooting and ran off into the woods, he was actually Tyler's neighbor, and he told Tyler's mom about it. And Tyler, and she was so gullible. She just believed it was a BB gun, which is just outrageous. So she sets him and his friend up to go shoot with his dad. I'm thinking. So what else? Yeah, so we see Jessica is starting to make progress, which is great. She went to the survivors meeting, and she's also now sleeping in her own bed. A couple of episodes ago, they said she was sleeping on her parents' floor, so she was not yet comfortable to even sleep, I guess, in her own room by herself. So now she's making great progress. So she's getting closer and closer to the point where she can talk about her story. Yeah, and we see Mr. Porter fights Justin's mom's boyfriend. After he goes out and he's looking for Justin, he ends up fighting the dude. And he wanted that fight. He's just on a crusade to right his wrongs from last season. He's just trying to help everybody. So he was happy he got into that fight. He was happy he took it to Justin's mom's boyfriend to kind of in defense of Justin. So Mr. Porter is on his own little crusade. He knows his time is limited, so he's trying to make the best of it. But now he's in jail now, so we'll have to see how that ends up for him. Well, let me see. What else do we have for this episode? But yeah, this episode was interesting. We're seeing more and more of a side of Hannah that we didn't know. But we also see that when someone is going through deep sadness, they tend to do things that they wouldn't normally do because she's on a search for happiness. She's trying to get out of that dark place, so she will cling on to anything to try to help her get out of that dark place. So even somebody like Justin, who's just completely wrong for her, she's trying to use that to make her day brighter, but it's just not working. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next from this point on, and can Clay handle all of these revelations about Hannah? So it'll be interesting. Anyway, that's all for episode 5 of 13 Reasons Why, season 2. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments, and also make sure to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to Altenor Media. Thanks for watching. I'm Emmanuel. Peace.